Hi everybody, welcome again to CPF's Instagram Live. We have a really exciting guest today, a CPF ambassador and ESPN sports announcer. Whoa, just dropped the phone, hang on, come back. Jason Benetti, and so excited to sit down and chat with him today, and really excited for all of you to sort of hear about where he's at, where his career's at, and all things Jason. We'll just wait for him to join in, and as soon as he does, I will add him to the live chat. As always, please put your questions in the comments. We've already got a few that have come over on Facebook and Instagram, but please put them through and we will make sure they get answered. Just give Jason a couple more minutes. Hope everyone is having a good Tuesday. You know, now it sort of feels crazy. We've been sort of in isolation coming up 9 weeks, and we're really excited about the content that we're doing at the foundation, but please, we'd love to hear more from you so that we can get some things. And I can see Jason has just joined us. I will invite him to be part of the call, and let me do this. Oh. Here we go. Let's see, hopefully that's going to work. Can see it's just waiting. And welcome again, everybody. Thank you all for joining in. We're really excited about our guest today with ESPN sports announcer and just all-around amazing person, Jason Benetti. He has requested to join. Jason, just let me know. Hopefully that's going to work. And again, anyone who has any questions for Jason, please put them in the comments, and we will get started very shortly. Hang on, let me... Sorry for the little glitch. Just waiting for this to work. It's saying add, and it's saying it's waiting. Oh, here we go. I'm see you connecting. Hello.
Hello.
Hi.
How are you?
Good. How are you? You seem to be sideways.
How about that? Better?
That's better.
Good.
Much better.
So I'm old, and I logged in, and I've never done Instagram Live because I usually am just on Twitter, and I had to enable access to my microphone and camera.
Oh, that's all right. We are just happy that you are here joining us now. We've got lots of people who are on board, and I suppose we can get started. Just a little introduction on yourself for those that don't know you, but I'm pretty sure nearly everyone on here does know who you are, but just in case.
Yeah. Normally I'm way better groomed, but I've been indoors for the last couple months. I'm Jason Benetti. You may have seen me if you're a sports fan. I do football, basketball, and baseball for ESPN. I also do White Sox games here in Chicago when there's a baseball season. So most of the time when there are regular years, I do about 200 games a year, and I'm a CPF ambassador, which is something very close to my heart because I also have CP.
Yeah, no, we are so grateful to have you on our team, and obviously you're a huge supporter of the foundation, as of we are of you. Like, we have been, as others, very much missing, seeing you announcing and doing all these different things. Can you tell us a little bit what life's like for you right now?
As you can see, life does not involve a razor currently. Life has been interesting. I'm doing a couple things on social media that have kind of kept me connected to the world, but I'm generally just staying in. I'm having groceries delivered. One of the things I'm doing is every night uh, people are sending me direct messages of notes to their loved ones, and I'm recording them as videos on Twitter. The first couple weeks of this were really interesting for me because
Yeah.
I was in a couple arenas where there was exposure to COVID-19. So I had to do the 14-day quarantine, not go out at all. And I just felt kind of detached, and I was sad, and I felt like I couldn't express that in any like really true way because I wasn't doing any games. So I asked people to send me notes to loved ones, and it's amazing how deep people are willing to be about the people they care about. And it just feels kind of nice to connect people in a very small way.
That is amazing. You know, because I think it's so hard right now to feel connected and to feel, you know, like part of something. I'm so excited that I'm actually talking to you today. Like, you know, I'm the same as you. I've been in quarantine, and, you know, my daughter was sick. So we sort of had, you know, all these things where we were inside for a very long time. So it's sort of nice to connect with familiar faces.
Yeah, it's great to hear your voice. I mean,
Yeah.
we've had so many laughs over the last couple of years, and it's just nice to talk to somebody I actually know.
Yeah, no, that's it, right? It's like, oh, finally.
Yeah.
But, you know, my question to you, so, you know, we're seeing obviously things starting to open up. Do you have any inside information about some sports starting to start, or any like weird things that might be happening, or interesting things? I shouldn't say weird.
Yeah. The golf that happened last weekend was really interesting and kind of weird too. You saw the announcers that were
Yep.
separated by like sort of perforations and plastic and things like that. But I do think with all the governors saying, hey, our state is open for sports, and our state is, I think the leagues are really starting to, basically in the headlines that I've read, and I don't have any great insight on it. I do know baseball is working toward a proposal to the players. So I
Yep.
kind of feel like those steps are happening. But it seems like every day there are more indications that we are getting closer to being back with sports, with some obviously safety considerations that need to happen. But it
Yep.
does seem like day to day we're getting closer and closer.
So, like, because my interesting thing, right, is like a lot of people can work from home. Obviously, your job, you could work from home if the games were playing, do you think? Or do you think really like you get so much from being there in person?
No, so that's actually really interesting you brought that up, Rachel, because last Thursday I had an installer from ESPN, an operations guy from ESPN, come and set up a home studio for me. So
Whoa, that's
yeah,
fun.
I have a camera, I have a studio light, I have a computer that sets me up on a Zoom call, and actually last weekend I did my very first Korean baseball organization KBO game. It aired like 3 o'clock in the morning Central Time on Saturday. But I was here in Chicago. Kyle Peterson, the analyst, my partner, was in Omaha at his home, and the ESPN production staff was in Bristol, socially distanced in their control room. So it's really interesting doing a game off the monitor. But I've got a headset. I've got my whole setup. It's everything that I would need for a broadcast. I'm
Yeah.
just not there. So I have. It's funny you say that because I did have a home studio installed on Thursday.
So do you think that could be the way of the future? I hope not. I actually hope that like you are not just always in a home studio and you do actually get out to be at the games, but like that's pretty amazing that they can do all of that and set you up at home.
It is remarkable. I mean, it really is. And there's a very slight delay on the audio and video because, you know, we're in 3 places and the game's in South Korea.
Yeah.
But generally, it's you can do pretty much everything. They pipe in some stadium noise so we can hear the dugouts. I
Okay.
don't think that's the way we're going to do it in the future unless safety considerations last really, really long, which I don't think is going to happen. I
Yeah.
think want us to be there, and I think sports is best consumed when you're there. But I do
Mhm.
think it's an option for people, certainly. But no, it's good to know that we can do it because it helps get sports on TV.
Yeah, definitely. And I think good to know that these things can happen in a different way.
Yeah.
You know, I think it's so interesting. We've always got this question a lot saying, you know, modifications, people have requested modifications in the past and they, you know, haven't been able to happen, or people have said they're too hard. And now everyone's finding, oh, actually, this stuff isn't as hard as what people thought.
Right. That's absolutely true. And I think that's great for the disability community on the whole, is to know that, hey, we have by total accident and obviously with a negative situation, but by total accident, we figured out that these modifications are very feasible. We can do these things. The other thing that I've kind of noticed is people with disabilities generally are just problem solvers, and
Yes.
friends of people with disabilities and parents. Like I think we all have built into us, because of how we have to navigate the world, the ability to look at something and say, yeah, it's different, but like I'll figure it out.
Yeah.
And I'm really glad to have that as part of my DNA, because there's never really any instinct for me to say, oh, well, it's on a slight delay, so it's harder, so I'm going to complain about it. Like that just doesn't really compute for me, because you don't get to do that.
Yeah, I think it's this sort of level of resilience and this adaptability that I'm hoping more of the workforce is going to see, and see just how valuable that is, because, it's really quite a remarkable attribute to have, and something that I think more companies can benefit from as well.
I agree, and I don't like explicitly talking about it, like getting on a podium and saying like I'm more resilient than you. That seems unfair to those people, but I do think that with what we all grew up with, having a disability or knowing somebody with a disability, you
Yeah.
just understand that there are harder things than the fact that you can't go to a restaurant for a couple months or whatever. And this is an awful virus.
Yeah.
I'm not at all downplaying that, because it's an awful thing.
Mm.
But in order to make it through, and that's kind of what we're all doing, to have the ability to look and say, hey, well, I need to tweak this and I can tweak that, and it
Yeah.
doesn't matter if it looks the same way that it used to, because I don't look the same as what people expect. So many others with disabilities don't.
Yeah, no, totally. So we are getting a lot of questions about sports broadcasting. Everybody wants to know. There's a few different people. People want to be broadcasters. So we actually got a question in earlier from a college student who's actually about to go to Syracuse as well, similar to you, but wants to know, like, what was it like transitioning from school to college? And did you always know that you wanted to be a broadcaster?
Yeah, that's interesting. I'll take the second part first. I was lucky enough to have a high school radio station at Homewood Flossmoor High School in the south suburbs here, so I got to experience that early on. And
Yeah.
when I had the rush of being on the air, and like I was on radio first, I was on the air and nobody saw me. I was like, wait, there's a way that I can do this and nobody's looking at me all the time. And obviously I was naive to why I picked it up, but that's
Yeah.
that's why I did it in the first place. So I knew then that that's what I wanted to do because of my high school radio station. And then my transition from high school to college, whoa, I was real bad at it. I knew I wanted to go to Syracuse for the program, but my family and I actually never visited. I went sight unseen. So we just
Yeah.
like packed up the old Ford Explorer and drove to New York. And the first time I saw the campus was the day I moved into my dorm.
Wow.
So I was just really terrible at it. And the transition was hard. I mean, my freshman year, the 2 weeks in was 9/11. And so there was this moment of like, I'm seeing classmates of mine who have parents working in New York City. And it was just the campus sort of shut down for a couple days, and there was this mourning period. But I found by the second semester, I found the campus radio station, and I got to know people there, and that's kind of where I made my best friends. So the transition was hard at first. I didn't know what I didn't know about the world,
Mm-hmm.
and sort of integrated slowly in that way. But once I found my people, everything went pretty well.
So you talk about radio first. If someone wants to be a sports broadcaster or get into that, would that be something you would recommend, like them trying out radio and seeing what that feels like? Or, you know,
I would
where's,
say do it all.
where's the starting point?
Yeah. So I would say do it all. Do I first do mock broadcasts until your heart wants you to stop. Like sit in front of a computer screen right now. Like if you want to be a sports announcer, right now is the time to every day pull up a game on YouTube, pull up a game on MLB TV, whatever it is, and do play-by-play of it and listen back to it and critique it and compare it to the people you think are really good and find them and send your tape to the people you think are really good, because to have them tell you like, oh, here's what you can tweak, here's what you can work on, you'll start really aiming at the highest target. And I
Yeah.
had people that I was very fortunate to get to know early on, some people who are pretty high up as play-by-play
Yeah.
now in the industry, who gave me a lot of tips that were really important. So I think just do it as much as you can. Do play-by-play into your phone, into whatever, And then when
Mm-hmm.
games start, go to games, sit with your phone at the top of the stadium and just call the game in the crowd. Just doing it a lot in a focused way and working on stuff and making it sound different every time. That's the starting point. And there's a difference between radio and TV. If you're doing radio, you have to describe a lot more because we can't see any of it. And then with TV, it's a lot more about how you work with your partner and how you're bringing up topics that are important and how you're using your voice and things like that. So I think it's important to do both, to learn what words apply on radio that don't apply on TV. And so I guess what I'm saying is do it a lot. Like
Yep.
don't just say, hey, I bet I can do this. Like sit in front of a screen and really work on it. Practice. Yeah.
No, it's such good advice. And you're right. Like right now, you could be doing this. For example, everyone, I am terrible and I always apologize for how, like, this is not my natural element to be, doing these sorts of interviews and talking. I prefer to be behind the camera. As Jason knows, he's seen me a few times doing that. So for me, this is like such a new experience. But as you say, the more you do it, the more comfortable you come at it and the more you realize, like, is this something that I enjoy doing or not? And I love doing these now. Like they've really become sort of something that I look forward to each week.
I think, first of all, I think you're great at it. You've always had a better presence than you think you do. Like when we do events together, people enjoy you and they enjoy what you do and what you do for the foundation. So like there's nothing to worry about. But yeah, once you do it, you start to realize, like, the first thing for me was, oh, I actually don't hate the sound of my own voice. Like for a while, when you start talking, you're like, do I really sound like that? That's really bizarre. Why do I sound like that? And then you kind of get over it, and you keep understanding that when people criticize your work, when you send your work to people and say, hey, will you critique this? Tell me what I can do better. They're actually just trying to help. At first, like, this is going to shock you, but I was slightly defensive. Like, as somebody who was both a perfectionist and had a disability, like I got about my work. I wanted it to be good because this was the place where I could be good at something. And very quickly I realized that I just need to listen to the advice and not say, oh, they think I'm bad or they think I'm not good at it, whatever. No, it's about making tweaks to what you do and using nuance to improve your craft, not just saying I'm good or I'm bad, not grading yourself at every moment.
That is like such wonderful advice because it's such a hard thing sometimes to take that step back and go, okay, they're not saying this to be mean. They're not saying this to be awful to me. They're not, judging me on who I am as a person. All they're doing is going, how can you be better at what you love to do and what you want to do? And I think, all of us need that time to time to say, all right, look, we're giving you this feedback so you become better, not, to bring you down. And I think that's a wonderful thing to find a good mentor to do that with as well.
I agree with you completely. The most insidious thing out there is when you're aiming at a target you think is really high, but it's only average, right? Like your best day is actually the best person's average day. I want to flip that. I want my average day to be other people's best day. Like I want to set enough strategies and goals and systematic, I do this every day into my routine that I can't help but be aiming above where average is. And the only way you can do that is by sending your work, whatever industry you're in. It doesn't have to be broadcasting, but like evaluating your work against the best score sheet out there. I early on in my career, 2008, I sent my work from a small school that I was doing basketball at to an NBA announcer. And he wrote me back to say, basically, I like what you're saying, but how you're saying it is kind of boring. And I thought, wow, he's a jerk. Like that was the first thing I thought was, wow, he's mean. And then the second thing I thought was, you know what? Like he's right. I can be more dynamic with my voice. And honestly, I've written him since. I actually wrote him a couple, maybe 5 months ago and said, hey, I just want you to know, we've never met in person, but what you said to me was so terribly important to my career because you gave me true advice that was harsh, but honest.
No, and I think like it is so important. And I think all of us, find it really hard to receive sometimes. And it is like, like for me, for example, we write medical journal articles, and they have to get them published, they get peer reviewed. And sometimes you get it back and go, whoa, hang on, did they read this paper? And you have to take a step back and go, all right, no, I could have written that better. I could have done this better, or, all the time. So I love this advice. And I think for all of us not to take it on as, this critical thing of people being awful for whatever reason. It really is. Most people are out there to help. Obviously, there can be some people who aren't very nice. We see trolls on the internet all the time about stuff like that. But the majority of the time, people are doing it to be, really helpful.
Especially if you've selected those people or you
Yes.
trust their opinions. And so I think, and this is a generalization, but it speaks to my heart. And I do think that when you have a disability and you've been poked at and prodded at and joked at and like made fun of, or whatever comes with the reactions you get for your CP or whatever it is in your daily life, I think people like us tend to be more defensive at the outset, because we feel like, at least I do, and I can't speak for everybody, but I felt early like I had to prove to people that I was smart. And so when somebody says your work isn't good enough, you tend to want to put up like a fortress around you. You tend to want to have a shield, and that will deflect really good criticism. Because if you say, hey, no, I have to make sure that my ego is intact because it's kind of brittle because I get joked at, and like people don't immediately gravitate to me for friends or whatever it might be, like there's a lot of pain in that. And I would encourage anybody who deals with that, whether it's because of a disability or that, they're obese or whatever it is, right? You're a woman in sports and people say stuff about you. Like, don't be defensive. The advice that you're getting is actually real. Do not put that in with the mean-spirited stuff. Like, be able to separate those, because if you ignore that good advice, you're not going to be able to really find yourself and find what makes you special.
Yeah, no, and I think in this day and age as well, and so this is particularly for some of our like younger viewers listening, if you're sort of graduating from high school, there can be a lot of mean things that are said. There can be some, particularly with the internet, people, those keyboard warriors that can really say things that aren't true. But find your people, find your mentors around you. There are going to be phenomenal people in your life that absolutely want to see you succeed, and they are the ones who you can trust, who to give that true feedback to. And I have another question for you, though, because I don't know whether you and I have spoken about this a little bit, but in broadcasting and having CP, have you ever had that affect your job, or what's it like having CP in broadcasting? Like, is there something there that you've had to consider?
Yeah, it's really interesting because you never know, right? Like this is an industry, and I've had success, and I'm very happy with my career, and I'm really grateful for the people who've said, hey, I believe in you. Right. I shudder to say they took a chance on me. At some point, somebody took a chance on me, but at some point the work was good enough too that
you proved yourself.
Yeah, that like they should have hired me as well. And that sounds a little egotistical, but I think you know where I'm coming from there. That you don't always say, well, it's got to be you got to take a chance because my eye drifts or because I walk funny or whatever. I think at first, I think if you polled all the people that immediately saw my tape at first, they would have said, yeah, he's a little awkward on camera. He doesn't really like know how to have a presence. And so part of that is my eyes, right? Like part of that is that. And then part of it is I wasn't really good at being on camera either. So there was a component there of me being right that I thought, hey, the way I look is affecting me initially, just getting in the door of TV. Yeah. But there's also, I just needed to be more confident in myself. So I don't think it really has ever gotten in the way of anything. Sometimes I think it may have, but again, like people make judgments subconsciously. It's not like somebody saying, oh, he's like, they're not just saying explicitly, oh, he's ugly, or like, oh, his eyes, whatever, right? Yeah. There's a part of them that might say, I don't really like it. And they don't even know why. So there's a piece of me that always wants to like search for pretext, and then there's a piece of me that says, hey, stop that. Legitimately, there's pretext for everybody. Like if you are an announcer with like a face that's larger than somebody else's, or you have a tooth missing, or like your nose is crooked, or you talk with a lisp, or like whatever it is, there's pretext available for everybody. So when I'm at my best, and I've gotten better at this every year that I've been in TV, I really try to not think about it. And I legitimately turn my eyes to the work. And I say, how can I be better? How can I be more dynamic? What can I fix here? Who can I talk to that might be able to make an inroad with that person? There's no value in searching for pretext, because if you truly believe in the work, you'll find somebody, I think, based on my career and my experience. And I'm somebody who has thought, hey, they're discriminating somebody or something, or they don't understand me. It's not even discrimination. It's that they don't understand what I can provide because I don't have the look. Like, I'm pretty sure that that has happened. But also, like, as we were talking about before, you have to be a problem solver. And so there really is no value other than to prove yourself right in finding pretext. And I'd rather be successful than be right. And so that's kind of where I point myself.
Jason, I want to say thank you right now, because everything that you're saying right now is resonating so strongly with me. And I'm sure it's resonating so strongly with everyone else. And it's something we all need to hear. And I think it's such a wonderful outlook to really think about these things, and sort of like, how can we be our best selves, and what are some of those things that hold us back? And, you know, if those thoughts take over, that's really what holds us back sometimes. And so it's wonderful to sort of hear that from you and go, all right, this is sometimes, you know, strategies for success.
Yeah, it's and I'm glad it resonates, because I do think it's for all of us. And I just think, based on a couple factors of broadcasting, that I've been fortunate enough to land at a place where I feel really comfortable saying you can get good at something and have it really positively affect your life no matter what you look like. Like, I'm in an industry where people judge you all the time. Like, there are image consultants who work with TV stations to pick like the right looking people for the TV station. And my answer has always been like, yes, I can do better on camera, and I will figure it out. And I have gotten a ton better on camera. But the answer is dive into the work. Like, figure out how to make the work better, be more dynamic, be more accessible, be more human, be better with my voice, whatever the specific is. Like, really dive into the work, and somebody will hire you. Like, I don't want to say life is a vocational pursuit, though, because we need to be loved as well. We need to have families and friends and all of that. But in terms of what my vocation has done for my confidence as a person, to know that I've found workarounds for a very subjective and sometimes really snippy industry, like it just is, to know that I've found workarounds for that makes me think that the message is universal, that if you get out of your own head and stop saying the world is against me, which it is sometimes, like, that's absolutely true. People judge me. People think things of me that I have to overcome, but there is no second universe where I will get to be transported later to not have a disability. Like, it's not going to exist where I ever get to walk up to somebody and they're not judging me. So I have two choices. I can complain about it, which I have, or I can work around it, which I know I'm better when I do.
No, like, I think that actually takes us into a really good segue around awkward moments, because, you know, you have developed with us a very successful campaign. And if anyone hasn't seen them, please go to our YouTube channel and look at the Awkward Moments series with Jason Benetti, because not only are they very educational, but they're also hilarious. And, you know, it goes back to that point. So around awkward moments, like, what do you see like an awkward moment? Can you give us a sort of a description of one that maybe has happened in real life? Because a lot of these did happen in real life, and you base them on, you know, your own experiences. But
yeah,
you know,
they all have happened. They all have happened in real life. The Awkward Moments series is basically, and I love it, and I'm so happy CPF did it. Like, it makes me smile, and I'm so grateful that we could do it with such a sense of humor and such an understanding of humanity, because like, these things get repeated so much that I've basically stopped blaming people for doing it, and I've started collecting the ridiculous reactions, because let's face it, like, we have to organize the world in a way in our brains. And so people see me walking around and they like want to help by giving me a cart ride, and I don't really need a cart ride. And there's a lot of stuff that goes into meeting me on a day-to-day basis. It's odd for some people, and it's hard and whatever, because they don't really know what I am. Like, they don't know what box to put me in. And so I think the one that's most interesting to me is I was in the airport, and it's in the Awkward Moments series, but this one is very close to my heart because it speaks to a lot of stuff that's happened in my life. I walked up to the guy at the airport in the pre-check line, and he said very slowly to me, like, "Hi, this is pre-check. Do you know what that is?" And I was like, "Yes, I travel all the time. I'm Diamond on Delta. Like, deal with it." And so I walked by, and then I went through security. And immediately after security, one of the TSA guys says, "Hey, can you come over here for a sec?" And I wanted to say, I actually by law have to, if you tell me that I need to come over there. So yes, I can. And he's like, "Hey, I just want to let you know I'm a huge Sox fan. I love your work."
Yeah.
And it was awesome. Within 60 seconds, though, I had a person think I'm a 10-year-old. And then I had a person think that I'm like the coolest person they've met all day.
Yeah.
Which is like a total slingshot and messes with your mind absolutely bizarrely, because you have people who are like, "Oh, hey, Jason, go White Sox." And then you go up to a flight attendant and they're like, "Can I help with your bag?"
Yeah.
And I don't know what I am when that happens. And I just need to like center myself and realize that I don't get normal interactions. But yeah, I get those awkward moments all the time. Like I'll go up, it's funny to think of a buffet lunch at a ballpark right now, because sharing food is like the farthest line. But I was at a ballpark a couple years ago, and the woman who ran the buffet at this ballpark in the media room basically was like very slowly walking me through all the food choices as I was selecting my food. And I was like, "Lady, I'm an announcer." Like that, you know. I had another. This one is actually, I think, even more important and a little less funny. But I had an usher. I was walking through a basketball arena with one of my broadcast partners. We were both holding our media credentials in our hands.
Yep.
My partner walked through the tunnel without incident. I start walking through, and I'm wearing a suit and tie. I start walking through, and the usher takes my credential from my hand wordlessly. He says nothing. Takes my credential and begins to tie it to my belt loop without saying a word. And I was like, "No, I'd rather hold it. And by the way, I'm not 12. And so
by the way, take your hands off me, please.
Right. Please don't touch me. Please don't touch me. And so I said something to my broadcast partner, who's a very close friend of mine, a really, really good, wonderful guy who knows a lot about me. And he was like, "Does that happen to you all the time, that kind of stuff?" I was like, "Dude, you don't even know." And he went and like gave a little what for to the guy. And I was like, "Please don't do that, because I don't want to make a scene." But again, like, this guy, he just has never met somebody like me before. And so I think there's a lot of value in just getting the message out. Like, you all do wonderful things medically and with research, and the CPF is so good at creating better lives for people with CP medically, but also just perceptually. Like, it's really the only place going that I think really pays attention to. Some of us have CP right now, and like, how can we help people in a fun way understand us? Because we have to navigate this world as it stands. So doing medical research is fantastic, but also understanding that, like, we can do a lot for people's perceptions just by having a sense of humor, by not blaming people. Like, I used to blame people for misjudging me all the time, but what are they supposed to do? They've never met somebody like me. So it's better if I treat that interaction smartly and calmly. And so they say, "Hey, next time I meet somebody like this, I have a better understanding, and I can do it in a more human, healthy way."
Yeah, well, I hope it, makes us all be better people, and I think it goes down to, like, I've told you this. So the Awkward Moments series is really now being used in schools, which is pretty amazing. And just so people know, this series we've built into the Just Say Hi inclusion curriculum for schools, which really is about teaching these moments and having young children, it starts at kindergarten, being exposed to situations and how they would react in those situations themselves, and getting them to think, in a manner, as you said, that is sort of humanity. Like, how do we look at each other in a way where we bring each other up instead of putting each other down? And I think, you know, at the end of the day, that's what we all need to do for each other. And, you know, the series, absolutely, it's like one of the most popular in the schools because kids love it. It resonates with them. They look at that and go, hang on, this situation, how did an adult respond that way? And I think that's the most wonderful thing about children sometimes is that they don't have these preconceived ideas. They don't have this stigma and all these things built up. And so it's our responsibility really to make sure that they go forward in their life and into adulthood, you know, keeping that they don't create these biases and these stigmas that really are unfounded on so many levels.
It's such a great point that children are born without that. People forget that when, like, I don't have kids, so it's easy for me to forget that, but those are not there when people are born. It's truly amazing. And so what I'm grateful for is just, first of all, it makes me smile so wide that it's being used in schools, because education has been so important in my life for me to understand people and for me to meet the people like in college who helped me really comprehend the world. And so I love the idea that we are able to, in small ways, but really palpable ways, help kids have a good laugh about this. Like the first one we released about the kid who gets shushed by a parent for saying, what's wrong with that man? That happens so often. It's so often. And that parent or caregiver or whoever is accidentally stigmatizing the person with a disability then by saying, oh, we don't talk about that. Because if we do talk about this, like we've seen that currency absolutely in politics, in the world, like you can go a long way with hatred. That's an absolutely available currency. But the sneaky thing that those people don't want to tell you is we're all more alike than we think. And so if we can convey that message in a small way to whomever it is, right? And there are politicians who on both sides of the aisle have trafficked in slime and hatred and whatever. But like it's unacceptable to me to make fun of people with disabilities just as currency. It's just unacceptable. And so the reason people do it is because it's easier to guide people to where you want them to go if they hate somebody else. Well, guess what? We don't all have to live like that.
No, I love it. Like, you know, coming from a message of love and trust and all those different things, it will win. We've got a question though. Here's one question. It sort of goes on this little comment. You know, what happens if you go in with, you go in to try to change somebody's mind? You know, they've got a preconceived idea and you just can't. Like, what's some of your advice there? You know, if you're at school or, you know, you're trying to do that, is it just to keep going or, you know, what's your advice on that one?
Right. I would say this. I would say try everything in your toolbox and beyond if it matters that much. Like if it's a gatekeeper in some way that you just can't avoid, try everything in your toolbox and then some. Go beyond wherever you think you can go with your strategy. And then if it really doesn't work, surround yourself with people who aren't like that.
Yeah. But
you gotta try. You gotta try real hard. Like you have to try everything, because that's the other component of this is sometimes plans A through X don't work and plan Y does, and you'll want to know that if you meet somebody with that personality type again.
Yeah, no, I think that's great advice. Jason, you are like the advice giver. Not only am I now going to like make sure that we're reposting your messages to loved ones, because, you know, you do have one of the best voices ever.
Aww.
But, you know, your like the way you look at life and the way that you sort of have really, that's why you are so successful. You know, it's one of those questions that I think a lot of really successful people get, you know, how did you get there? But it comes from a lot of hard work, but it also comes from this outlook on life, I think. And, you know, your resilience is really high, but also your talent. So I have one last question actually. And I know there's actually a few other questions in here. But I have one question. So are you just a walking encyclopedia for sports? Do you have to know everything, or do you fake it till you make it? Like, how do you do this? Can I get you on my trivia team? Like, what's going on?
So I do. A couple things. no, and I have something to say as well. Just real before I answer that, I do want to say, like, I have had really bad moments. I've had angry moments, like you say about my resiliency, and I appreciate it so much, Rachel. I really, 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 really do. But I've had to build it. So anybody who's watching this and saying, like, I'm not that resilient or I don't have that outlook on life, I didn't either. It was very hard for me. Like, there were times where I got very angry in college because I thought people were judging me. Like, somebody at one point posted an away message that said, they were angry at me for an assignment that I gave out at the student radio station, and they posted an AOL Instant Messenger away message that said, "At least he'll be a great story in somebody's magazine one day," which is like really awful to say about
Yeah.
somebody's ability when you're in college. So
Yeah.
I would just encourage people who say, like, "Oh, well, he's resilient, but I'm not." Build it. But on
Yeah.
the encyclopedia front, it's a combination of, like, I grew up loving game shows. I grew up watching trivia. Like, I learned how to spell and read in part from Wheel of Fortune, and so I
Oh
know
my God, that's
the
amazing.
yeah, I know a bunch of, like, esoteric random stuff. But I don't do a game without prepping. So I have a bunch of stuff in front of me that I print out on colored documents and I organize. So I've got a lot of touchstones that I've researched going into that game. So I think sort of like, I think Alex Trebek has said before, like, yeah, he sees all this trivia, but he doesn't remember all of it because he's just asking the questions. Like, I've built up a storehouse of knowledge because I've been around it, but sometimes it all does absolutely evacuate from my brain pretty quickly after the game. And then, doing baseball, I've got a computer up in front of me. So if I need to do some quickie research on something, I absolutely can do that. Most announcers do. So I do know stuff. I do like reading. Books are good, like, absolutely. But there's some of it that I research before the game, and then every once in a while I will do something in game to look.
During game. No, and I think that's good for people to know too, right? That you don't just show up to a game and just start talking.
Right.
There is a lot of prep that has to happen before and after these games. Like you say, you call 200 games a year, which, for everyone out there as well, I don't know anyone that actually travels as much as you do, because not only do you do it across sports as well. It's not like you're just doing basketball or just doing, you really go across a lot of sports. How much prep would you say? How long does it take you to prep for a game?
It depends on the sport. For baseball, I do a lot of my prep before the season because there's a game every day. So usually in season, I'll do 2 hours of prep per day for each game for baseball. For basketball, I would say probably 8 to 10 hours. Football is a giant slog because we have one game during that week. We generally get the game on Sunday that we're going to do the next Saturday. So we only have 6 days in general.
Wow.
But most of my day when football season is happening is in and out of football stuff. So I would say football is more like a 25 to 30 hour procedure because there are just so many players. It's like you got 100 players on each team. You're watching games from previous weeks. And the thing about doing national games is every team has diehard fans that are watching every game. So if I just repeat the stuff the last crew said, I seem like I've done nothing. So I've got to have information doing one of their games a year. I've got to have information that the fan who reads everything doesn't know in order for me to be an expert, which is horribly daunting. Like, it's almost annoyingly so, but it's good fun to try to research the stuff that truly is new.
Yeah, no, and truly, like, people want to hear about, right? And they resonate. And as you said, these true fans, they know everything. So they are walking encyclopedias. So, you've got a lot to, like, live up to there. But,
Totally.
Just thinking, like, where can we hear you next? Like, what are your plans for the summer? Like, what, can we watch these games that you're calling in? Where can we hear you? Because I think there's a lot of fans out there that are missing contact.
Yeah. So my schedule is sort of up in the air, but my next 2 games are Saturday and Sunday. Set your DVRs, ladies and gentlemen, and say the 3 a.m. Saturday Central Time Korean baseball that I'm doing, and then it's 11 p.m. Central on Saturday night. So I've got the Saturday Sunday games, but look for KBO on ESPN. Saturdays, Sundays games are the next ones I'm doing, and I'll be doing KBO games from my home for the next however long it is. And then if the White Sox season starts, we'll be on NBC Sports Chicago. And if baseball starts, then I'll be doing some major league games on ESPN, I would imagine, as well.
Yeah. No, we can't wait. We can't wait to actually see you back on our screens. And in the meantime, though, everyone should be following you on Twitter because your Twitter is amazing. And so thank you for coming across to Instagram. I'm loving, I feel like you should actually be on here all the time.
I'm gonna do. I need to do more on Instagram. It's like the graveyard of my social media. But I created the account actually because there were a couple fake Jason Benetti accounts that were like following friends of mine. So I had to create an account, and I need to do a little more on Instagram. Yeah. If we can talk about helping me with that.
You know you've made it in life when you have fake Instagram accounts.
Yeah, but I don't want to have made it. So I'm good with not making it.
All right. It's been so nice to chat. It's been so much fun. Thank you. And we'll make sure we put up Jason's Instagram handles and obviously Twitter handles. And if you don't follow him, go do it because, you know, it'll make your day. A lot of fun.
You are so kind, and you've always been so kind to me. And I'm so glad to be involved with CPF as an ambassador. And so thanks for everything you do as well. It's a total joy to talk about real life.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thanks.
Stay well.
You too.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.
Thanks, everybody.